Time to tell some jokes. Sometimes they just pile up and I got to get them all out in one segment. So welcome to the monologue. I am your host, James Parker. Oh, thank you. Stop it. I love you too. Well, for Christmas, the Atheist Alliance has produced an anti-Christmas TV special for Netflix. It's called It's Not a Wonderful Life. There's a warning from doctors against eating raw cookie dough. They say it puts you at risk for salmonella and having a fat ass. My grandma said that in one word, fat ass. So Daniel Penny was acquitted in the Subway chokehold case. DA Alvin Bragg couldn't be reached for comment. A spokesperson said he was eating. Because he's fat. Garrett, something you'll learn, you can only make fat jokes about guys. If you make them about women, people think you're bad. Jussie Smollett got his conviction overturned. The craziest part of that story, though, for me is the bleach, because there's all kinds of bigots out there, racist, homophobic, maybe even political. But there's no such thing as a bleach-wielding anti-textile bigot. That's clearly made up. But no, that's a fair point. Have you ever heard a story on the news your entire life where a dude was mugged in the street with bleach? It's a bleach mugging. Why would anyone be carrying bleach at 2 a.m.? Why? In case you see someone you hate, you can make their Old Navy stretchy pants look a little splotchy. Is that the goal? Your master plan? Archaeologists in Nazareth claim to have found the childhood home of Jesus. They say it was a modest place, but the rent was ungodly. Dad joke of the day. Did you hear Hunter's got a new motto after the pardon? He put it on his Facebook page. It says, when life gives you lemons, make sure your dad's the president so you can skip the lemonade and go smoke some crack. It's kind of a wordy motto, but it works. It works. And finally, the Dallas Cowboys have lost so many players to injury this year. Dak, DeMarcus, Zach, DeMarvion. Today, even their water boy twisted his ankle. Can't catch a break. He's going to be out for like 15 months, man. You're going to have to get your own Gatorade or something. God, that's stupid. All right. Hey, another quick update. So we had, I was talking about the last couple weeks. People have asked about a get-together, and I was going to try and throw one together before Christmas so we could have like a little meet and greet or whatever. We had a venue where it's James Show listeners that own and run the place and the people that work there even. And so I said, if I got 20 emails, then I'll go ahead and contact the owner, say, yeah, we've got a time and a place, and let's do it. And so I didn't get 20 emails, so we're not going to do it. I have more people saying they want to do the event. I had more than 20 people saying they want to do an event. But when I asked specifically, and I realized I only did this one time on one show, and that's not fair because people listen at different times and different hours. And for a lot of people, this is the first time you're hearing about it. But I didn't get 20. So no, I'm not going to do the event. We were planning on doing it next Tuesday. What would that be? The 17th at the RBG. I remember because Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but it's the Richardson Bar and Grill. So cool people offered to host it for me. I checked it out. I'd driven past there, but no, they got plenty of parking and it's a pretty big space. It looks like a perfect place to do it. They got pool tables. Is exactly what I'm looking for. But then when I threw it out there, not enough people popped up. So I'll give it another chance here. If you want to do the event on Tuesday, December 17th, I'm looking at 7 p.m. So, you can get off work, go home, change, smoke a cigarette or something. I don't know. Put on your comfortable shoes and then come out. And it's kind of centrally located. I know a big chunk of our listeners are up north of here, and I'm downtown, so I probably can't stay downtown. I figured that was the perfect location, but seriously, I didn't get the interest. James@wbap.com is my email. I got like maybe 8 emails and probably like 6 Facebook messages, but a couple of those were saying I would like to go do it there. I just can't do it that night, and a couple of people were saying, I just can't do Wednesday because I got church and I thought you were a Christian. It's like, well, how late is your church? Because if your church gets out at 8, you can come. We'll still be there at 8:30. So I'm just throwing it out there again. If you want to have an event, if you want to meet, not just me, but other James Show listeners, nice little meet and greet. We can all be a little community of friends. Send me an email, james@wbap.com, or a Facebook message or Instagram, wherever you find me. Send me a message. I'll try again. but I'm not going to have it if there's no interest. It's not just going to be me and like two people staring at each other for 3 hours. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Remember, we are your home for blessedbethefruit.org. You can order your Super Bible at blessedbethefruit.org now. The Super Bible is the ultimate holy book from the Old Testament, New Testament, Constitution, and Project 2025, all in one book. Order yours today at blessedbethefruit.org. Never gets old. All right, my next guest, Lee Richardson's coming back on from the Brain Performance Center. And you're a good person to talk to in the situation where we're trying to get inside the mind of Luigi Mangione, the CEO killer. And is this guy just a psychopath? Is that what you see? Because we're all just throwing out these diagnoses, but you do this for a living. What is this, a psychopath, a sociopath, a narcissist? What would you diagnose this guy as, Lee?
Well, that's a good question. Here's a guy that obviously has some issues, and I think that there's been a lot of red flags that he's got some issues going on. He has disconnected himself from his social media, which he was very much connected to. He has been in a situation where he's had a surfing accident. He's been in a lot of pain that impacted his social connections, his ability to connect with people. And the connection between the brain and the body is so strong. And when someone is in a state of physical pain that they can't even lay down, the brain isn't working real well. Then your vulnerability level comes up so high. And so, all the narcissists, psychopath, all those things, he may have a little bit of all that in him. But how do you look at that and how do you say, why did that drive him to do what he did? Because obviously he planned it.
Well, yeah, and I think pain is a great explanation on why someone would trip like that. And I hurt my back once, and I was just laid up in a bed for about 4 days. And after like 3 days of this, I'm like, if this continues, I'm going to kill myself. This is not any way to live life. I can't even get up to hardly go to the bathroom without just almost being in tears. So if that's what this guy was going through, he didn't look like it in the video, though. It looked like his back was working fine when he's executing an innocent man in the street and having to re-rack his gun and then get on the electric bike and take off when he's, talking to a lady at Starbucks. He didn't seem like he was in pain then. So how do you feel about that, Lee?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, he had a smile on his face in one of the photos that I saw online. But I think that when he's riding that roller coaster, fight, flight, freeze, and that when you're riding a roller coaster, you don't know what you're doing. You're just reacting. And I think that his adrenaline was flowing. Anytime those adrenaline glands start kicking out that cortisol, and the brain starts cooking out those neurotransmitters, that dopamine, that feeling of reward.
Yeah, that sweet dopamine hit, Lee.
Yeah.
All right.
And
let me ask you the next question. I'm just sorry. I was looking at the time and I have like 4 more questions left. How do you identify psychopaths like this in your life? How do you I would like to know if Garrett's a psychopath or if Mike Traina in the other room, if he's a psychopath. So what traits do you look for as someone from the Brain Performance Center?
Well, I think what you need to do is look for red flags. How is their behavioral change from what it used to be? Mm-hmm. And, when you see those behavioral changes, they can't sleep anymore. They don't eat anymore. They don't come out of their room anymore. Okay, that's something that should be of concern. And you see enough red flags, and that'll open a door for you to make some decisions.
So it's not Garrett, it's probably Joseph. I think that's what you're saying to me. Well, also, Lee, let's look in the mirror here. How do I know I'm not a psychopath?
Well, how are you sleeping? How are you getting along with your coworkers? How are you getting along with your family members? How are you making decisions? Are you prepared for life? Are you able to plan on a strategic level? I mean, look at, it all goes back to behavior on a cognitive and an emotional level.
Well, I know I'm fine because I like to spend a lot of time in the garage cutting out magazine clippings, putting them on a big bulletin board, and then putting yarn strings between the connections that I see. And so that helps me deal, and that's how I know I'm not crazy.
Well, I love my vision board, and I just finished mine for 2025, so I'm not going to disagree with that.
What movie was that? A Beautiful Mind that I'm referencing? Anyway, do these people know that they're psychopaths? Like, if you're a psychopath, do you know?
I think some do, and I think that do they know it all the time? No. In a moment of weakness, when they know nothing, they may come to that conclusion on their own. But I think a psychopath, you're riding a roller coaster. And that's the problem.
I think it's really hard from what I've read for a sociopath to diagnose themselves. But if you're a psychopath, he's probably thinking, well, I did just murder a guy last week. I think I hit another crucial bullet point in the symptoms for psychopathy. Whoops. But, sociopath might be a little hard. And narcissists are unable to have any sort of self-criticism. So it's almost impossible for them to self-diagnose. Or am I just off my rocker?
No, I think on the narcissism, you're exactly right.
I've been trying to read up on this so I can insult people properly or diagnose my coworkers properly. Looking at you, Joseph. How do we find your work outside of WBAP, Lee?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Lee Richardson, and we've got the good old-fashioned website on Facebook and Instagram, thebrainperformancecenter.com and thebrainperformanceinstitute.co.
And y'all are, what are y'all on, Mockingbird over by the airport?
No, we're at Preston Center.
Preston
Northwest
Center.
Highway, yeah.
I knew you were around here somewhere close. All right, thank you very much, Lee Richardson from the Brain Performance Center.
Thank you.
Coming up next, if you have any theories or diagnosis on whether or not Garrett's a psycho, 800-288-9227. I think we all know the answer is yes. But in about 4 minutes, you're going to hear Caitlin Clark. She got interviewed because she's Time Magazine's Sports Person of the Year. And that's fine. Athlete of the Year, fine. That probably fits. But I don't think you're going to like what she said in her interview. Let me pass along what Caitlin Clark said that's got so many people's panties in a wad. Where's the quote here? Because I have it in my notes. Here it is. When she's being interviewed by Time for Athlete of the Year, she says, I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, oh no, I don't even want to know what comes after this. It's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be some grovelly dog with a tail between the legs attitude. I hate that. I'm sorry. I got to admit how embarrassing and awful it is to have my skin tone. I really do regret it. Anyway, let me continue. I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of these players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league kind of has been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try and change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Yeah, if basketball is known for one thing, it's for suppressing the achievements of our black neighbors. That's right. That's what... God, is there any institution that highlights and celebrates awesome black people more than professional basketball? And Caitlin, she's half right. She is standing on the work from people that came before her. But it ain't female basketball players that have made the WNBA what it is today. It exists totally as a charity of the NBA. Millions and millions of dollars are taking from the earnings of the predominantly black men in the NBA and subsidizes your league, which is, look, I don't want to say the WNBA. It's not like... I'm getting in trouble for this. In some ways, it's like the Special Olympics or like the Paralympics or like the Women's Olympics. There's the Olympics, there's the open court that just the men dominate, but it's not because the NBA is the MNBA. It's just open to the best basketball players, period, point blank, end of story. If there was a woman out there who could do a 360 dunk right in LeBron's face, she would be in the NBA. There's nothing holding her back. But what do we have? Well, we have to put aside these leagues so these people can compete against themselves, because in the open court, where it's a meritocracy, you're never going to make it on the floor. You wouldn't even be the 15th person on the bench for the worst team in the NBA, in the developmental league, on a community college. So yeah, you didn't do this all yourself. The WNBA is a wholly supported charity of the NBA. Men, predominantly black, but it's all races. There doesn't have to be a racial angle to everything, because here's who she should really be thinking: LeBron, Luka, Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards, the ones who came before them, the Kobes, the Dirks, and then before that, the Barkleys and the Jordans, before that, the Larry Birds and the Magic Johnsons, before that, it goes all the way back. That's who you should be thanking. And you know what? It's okay to admit that your success is due to your talent. Yes, there's amazing black female players in the WNBA. Some of them have been better than others, but you are one of the best. You did go through college and break all their records. You hold the record for the highest scoring female basketball player. And I think male or female, didn't she? She beat Pistol Pete's record. Something like that. But you beat them all. And it has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It's not like the basketball rim opens up and is like 50% wider when a white person shoots it. You made all those buckets. You did all that. It's okay. It's not privilege. And I don't think it is a privilege to be a white person in basketball. You think people, when they don't know anything else about you and we're lining up people on the wall and we're going to pick for teams, we're going to play pickup games, people falling all over themselves to go get Caitlin? Give yourself some credit. You're 5'10". I could probably beat you at basketball. And I'm not saying that just to be like a smart mouth. Please, I'm 6'3". I'm in decent shape. I'm pretty good at basketball. But listen, you deserve the credit. You're, for a female player, an amazing talent. You broke records, and then you came into the WNBA and you were Rookie of the Year. And then on top of that, you have a little media sensation about you that not other people have. Is that because of the color of your skin? I don't know. Maybe that does play part of it. Kind of like when Jeremy Lin came up and he was an awesome point guard in the NBA for a few years and he was aging. We're like, hey, that's neat. But it's not because of a privilege. It's because you're almost a novelty. Oh my goodness, can you believe this person is that good? She certainly doesn't look the part. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227 if you got any opinions on that. Coming up next, so now that we have the Syrian rebels invading Damascus, knocking over Bashar al-Assad, are things about to get better or worse in the Middle East? I'll talk to retired Major General Bob Dees next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. See, this is what I'm talking about. You think I'm like famous and well known because you listen to The James Show and you just assume, there must be thousands of people listening. And there are thousands of people listening. That doesn't mean they want to meet. That doesn't mean they want to go to Richardson. I got, on the break there, 2 emails and a Facebook message from a lady named Jamie. So 3's not going to do it. I'm not going to have an event if it's going to be me and 3 people. Not that I don't like them. It's just, I'm waiting for 20. If you want to have an event, I need to get 20 emails or messages saying you'll go to the Richardson Bar and Grill Tuesday, December 7th at 7. 17th at 7. All right. So James at WBAP.com. Give me the messages or I don't want to hear about it. Or you can call in 800-288-9227. All right. Let's talk to Laura Reese, Heritage Foundation. She comes on to talk about some of these immigration situations. And right now there's a new report that I saw at heritage.org about 50 principles and policies that may be changing to overhaul America's immigration system. Before we get into the particulars, Laura, overall, does this sound like a pretty good slate of policy changes?
Well, I think so because I wrote the report. And this is something that I have been developing over a number of years, just dealing with immigration laws and reading the statutes and prosecuting cases and reading more congressional bills. It is true when people say immigration law is the second most complicated set of laws after the tax code. And it doesn't serve anybody well. It doesn't serve U.S. citizens well, or employers, or family members, or immigrants, or adjudicators. It's just been too expensive, too slow, too complex to try to follow. And after what the Biden administration has done to our immigration system and erasing the rule of law, it's time to start over.
Well, Laura, I don't know. The Heritage Foundation, you are the demons who wrote Project 2025, and that's from Satan himself. So how much does this overlap with what you guys have already put forth in previous works like Project 2025?
Well, this goes farther. So in Project 2025, we talk about the organization of the Department of Homeland Security, that the immigration agencies are too fragmented across many departments, not just DHS, but DOJ and Health and Human Services and State Department, et cetera. Those pieces need to be put back together if we want a functioning immigration system. And Project 2025 calls for return to a lot of the successful policies of the past, whether that's remain in Mexico, to get rid of asylum fraud, whether that's requiring an alien to seek asylum protection in the first safe country in which they enter, et cetera. But this new report that's out goes farther than that. It talks about dealing with the backlogs of cases that just keep growing. If you look at the immigration cases pending in the immigration court system, before Joe Biden, they numbered 1.2 million cases. Now that is up to 3.7 million cases in court. Add to that the applications pending at DHS, which is about 9.2 million cases. And no one ever talks about the backlog. And so one proposal in this report is if you've got unreasonable backlogs like that, stop intaking more applications until you get that backlog down to a manageable level before you resume taking on more applications.
Well, one of the things your report addresses is, upholding the Constitution and the rule of law. And, it doesn't matter how good the policies are. If you have states and cities who are going to say, well, we're not going to enforce these laws, we're going to declare ourselves a sanctuary from these laws. What do you do about the people who, even though you have good policies, refuse to comply with them?
Well, for the leaders of those states and localities, money talks, and so the federal government gives a lot of money to these state and local jurisdictions, and so those federal dollars should be turned off until the jurisdictions comply with federal law. It also is incumbent upon the citizens living in those jurisdictions to remind the mayors and the governors and the sheriffs that they just rejected those sorts of policies in this November election, and that American citizens are tired of having jobs and housing and tax dollars and public schools and emergency rooms taken away from the American citizens who pay for those services and given to people who aren't supposed to be here. And while we saw people show up for city council meetings in a few locations like New York City and the south side of Chicago, that needs to become much more the norm. We need to see that in Boston and Massachusetts and other parts of California, et cetera, so that these leaders get the message that if they don't change their policies, then they're going to be voted out of office.
So how much of this can be done by executive fiat versus having to go through the Congress and Senate?
A decent amount can be done through executive order, but what one president puts in place, another president can undo. So obviously, congressional statute is always going to be longer lasting. Unfortunately, we haven't had a major immigration bill pass through Congress since 1996. But the proposals in this report should be something that both sides can agree on, and that is a simpler, fair, and frankly, faster immigration system. Where if someone is eligible for a benefit, they get it quickly and can move on with their lives. And if someone is not eligible or is committing fraud to get it, they are denied quickly and removed from the country.
Okay, so I'm thinking we might see some filibuster action coming up on this.
I mean, if they do, then they don't want to solve the problem. I
don't think they do.
And perhaps they just want the issue to raise money and to campaign on. But truly, we cannot be a country and continue with what we have been seeing these last 4 years. You can't have an open border and a welfare state. We can't afford it, and it's dangerous in terms of national security threats, public safety threats, and we cannot afford it.
Well, you don't need to tell me. I'm sure the listeners agree with you, too. Thank you very much, Laura Reese. Good job on the report. Sorry I didn't give you proper credit at the beginning. I didn't realize you had actually written it. I thought you were just reporting on the report. So thanks for coming on the James Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, you can find her work. That report's at heritage.org right now. More than 50 immigration policies and principles for the overhaul of the U.S. immigration system. So, yeah, we don't just have complaints. We don't just, bark grievances into the wind. There's actual solutions behind it. And when we put pen to paper, this is what a lot of them look like. Go check it out at heritage.org.